We would like to note that this information in this presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Our information is intended to empower patients, their families, and healthcare professionals who want to collaborate in the most effective ways on this journey to health and well-being. Please see a licensed and qualified medical professional for your medical needs. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to welcome and introduce our speakers, Myra Oney and Steve Ledvina. Myra Oney is an integrative nutrition health coach and Reiki master teacher. Steve Ledvina is a national board certified health and wellness coach and founder of knowingalz.com. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box and we will answer them during the Q&A at the end of the presentation. Welcome, Myra and Steve.
Thanks, Joan. So we'll start with just an overview of what we're talking about today. So we'll give just a brief introduction to Sharp again and what we do here. And then we'll progress into talking about what is and isn't normal aging, what exactly is cognitive decline versus just the regular process of aging. What actually causes memory loss and dementia? And then most importantly, really, what can you do now? What can you start doing to keep your brain sharp? What can you do to prevent, delay, or even reverse cognitive decline? So who are we at Sharp Again? Sharp Again is a nonprofit that seeks to educate the public and medical community about preventing dementia and improving brain health. We empower everyone to take charge of their cognitive health and their general well-being in support of their brain health. And then we strive to create programs and groups and different methods to support the lifestyle changes that actually improve cognition. That's going to be coaching groups or these webinars or things like our Awaken and Energize weekly meditation group that's been going on the last few months. And we do all of this based on a multi-therapeutic, scientifically backed approach. And then finally, we partner with like-minded professionals and organizations to broaden our reach and deepen our understanding, and really to bring you the most up-to-date and valuable information. And why do we do all of this? Well, we envision a world where dementia can be prevented, treated, and reversed, and where everybody has the ability to remain cognitively healthy throughout their lives, regardless of who they are or how much money they have or what their background is.
So what we wanted to start off with here, thanks Steve for talking about Sharp Again and about who we are. One of our guiding principles, one of our guiding thoughts is that dementia is not a natural part of aging. That just because you get old doesn't mean that you are necessarily going to develop dementia. And this is something that has been kind of a fringe idea for a while, but this actually is a quote from the CDC. Dementia is not a natural part of aging. Okay. So let's talk for a minute about what actually is normal aging. So believe it or not, your memory processes start to begin to slow down when you're 30 years old. Now, I'm pretty sure that we're all pretty far past 30, and it might be a little bit difficult for us to understand that, yeah, when we were 30 years old, we stopped being quite as sharp as we were before that. So normal aging includes, first of all, just simple forgetfulness, something that's, we all forget things from time to time. So simple forgetfulness, delay or slowing in recalling names, dates, or events. So this means that it might take you, a couple beats, a couple seconds longer to remember a name, a date, or an event, but it will come back to you. Trouble finding words in a conversation, that whole feeling that, yeah, that word is just on the tip of my tongue. I'll get it. Oh yeah, it's this. Slowing down on the speed of processing information, learning, or problem solving. So you may find that you need to read a page of instructions more than once. That when you go to learn some new information, it may take you a couple of reviews to do it. Or that if you have a particular problem to solve, you might have to think about it a little longer, maybe think about it a little bit differently, but eventually you get there. And challenges with multitasking, frankly, I have always had challenges with multitasking. Our brain is not actually created to multitask very well. We have always been better when we just focus on one thing. But if you are a multitasker and you find that you're having more and more of a problem with it, that's not necessarily a horrible thing. Okay, so what is not normal aging? So not normal aging is when you regularly forget appointments and conversations. So when you start noticing that this is happening more than it ever has in the past, and maybe the appointment that you forgot was a really important one, or maybe the conversation that you had, there was some kind of important information that was passed along or decision that was made, and you absolutely just have forgotten the conversation completely. You find yourself regularly misplacing items. Sometimes, yes, but if you find that it happens more and more and more, that might not be normal aging. You have more and more trouble focusing on something. So that's sort of like that multitasking sort of thing. But you find that your focus keeps drifting more than it used to. That's really the key. You often forget the names of family members or friends, and you may not recall them even after a few minutes. This is a big one, struggling to complete tasks that you are used to doing, such as balancing your checkbook, shopping, or driving. Now, driving in particular, if you find yourself going someplace that you've always gone before and you either all of a sudden forget where you're going or you forget how to get there, then that's kind of a red flag for you. Memory problems that interfere with daily life and activities. So anytime that you are having trouble remembering something and it's really affecting your ability to move forward with your tasks during the day. And this is a great example here. Forgetting where you put your glasses, which is just forgetting where you put something, as opposed to forgetting what your glasses are used for. There's a distinction there that really is sort of like a boundary between normal and not normal aging. So there is a stigma amount around memory loss because it's something that we don't want to talk about. We don't want people to know about. And we don't often want to know about ourselves. So it used to be that if you went to a doctor, you were diagnosed with memory loss, they would say, you know what, there's nothing we can do, or we can try this medication or that medication, but there are no medications that really help with memory loss 100%. Usually they stop working after a while. And they would say, go home and get your affairs in order. Goodbye, good luck. We can't do anything for you. Now, when a doctor tells you this, what do you do? Well, first of all, of course, you become extremely fearful and you deny it. You deny that you're having this issue at all. Next, you might start wishing it away. You're hoping it goes away. Maybe it'll go away after a little while. And eventually you start hiding away because you're forgetting things. You don't want people to know about it. This kind of fear, denial, wishing it away and hiding it away means that you don't look for any possible answers or any possible solutions to this issue of memory loss. And so what Sharp Again is doing is we're really changing the way that we view about memory loss and the way that we talk about it, because we know that today there is hope. And this is more and more being backed up by scientific research. 10 years ago when Sharp Again began, this was a very much of a fringe conversation, but now it's something that more and more science and the medical community is understanding, that there really is hope. We're living longer. We are focusing on prevention. We understand that lifestyle factors have a lot to do with memory loss. And many times people being diagnosed with memory loss, and that's not really what it is. It's just that there's an imbalance in a lifestyle and something in your lifestyle. We know many of the causes of memory loss, and there are actually things that you can do. I wouldn't call them treatments, but there are things that you can do to prevent and slow its progression, and sometimes even prevent it.
Thanks, Myra. So jumping off of that last point, when is the best time to start making changes? If you're worried about memory loss, to start putting in different things to prevent it, working with your doctor, or if you're starting to experience some cognitive decline, working to chase down the cause of that. And we'll talk about causes in a minute, but let's just talk about the stages of memory loss or cognitive decline. It's kind of the overarching term that we use. So first, before even the 4 up on this screen, there's just normal cognition. You're just normal aging, you're not experiencing any differences, you just feel healthy. And then right after that is sort of the first phase of cognitive decline, which is subjective cognitive impairment. In this stage, you might notice something's wrong. You can tell something's not right in your brain. You're noticing little changes. Maybe something's a little harder to remember, or you can just feel that your brain isn't right. But this stage doesn't necessarily show up on the different cognitive testing unless you've taken them regularly. You might still test in a normal range, but you've noticed a shift for yourself. Then comes the mild cognitive impairment stage, which is characterized by you can see symptoms, but you're still able to function well in normal life. You might even be able to cover up or hide your symptoms using different techniques that people develop over time. Instead of naming a person, you say, oh, your cousin, or instead of saying that piece of furniture, you just use this or that instead. And then there's moderate cognitive impairment, which is when the daily tasks start to become more difficult. Things like paying the bills or navigating around town or getting dressed start to become hard to do on your own, and it really affects daily quality of life, and it's very noticeable. And then finally, severe cognitive impairment is where you start to need supervision. You might need aids or full-time care, those sorts of things. And so back to the original question is, where in this continuum is it best to start getting help? And the answer is today or as early as possible. And the reason for that is there's always options you can do to make quality of life better at each of these stages, but the earlier it is, the more options you have, and the easier it is to have an effect on creating a healthy brain and preventing cognitive decline. And the farther down these stages you get, the more substantial the task becomes to make a significant impact on cognition. So on that same concept, what we're talking about here is really increasing our health span. I think everyone's familiar with the idea of lifespan. Science and medical science in particular is becoming more and more effective at increasing our lifespan, but really we don't all just want to live longer, we want to be healthy longer. And so that's what we're focusing on with brain health. We want to keep our brains healthy as long as our bodies are healthy, because we want to maximize quality of life for as long as possible. And that's where prevention or even delay, I think delay is an appreciated concept. If you can delay cognitive decline by 5, 10, 15 years, that's a huge win. You have 5, 10, or 15 more quality years of life. So it's important to just think of our health span, not just our lifespan. And that's a big concept with brain health. So now to jump into a little bit more of the meat of what exactly causes memory loss. So we're going to walk through 10 topics here just at a high level, but it's going to be a lot of information potentially. So there will be a recording of this after if you want to circle back to it. And I will try and go slowly. So the first two are, or the first one is nutritional imbalances, diet. We all know a healthy diet is important, but when it comes to brain health, having a poor diet, especially a chronically poor diet over a lifetime, can be a significant cause of cognitive decline, can be a big risk factor for dementia. And there's a number of ways that affects the brain, but really we're talking about a diet high in vegetables, not eating all day, every day, those sorts of basic things. I think it aligns a healthy brain diet. There's a lot of details that you can do to fine tune, but overall a brain healthy diet is largely what you've heard of. And then there's beyond just diet, there's nutritional deficiencies. So even if you're eating a good diet, or not, sometimes you can be deficient in different vitamins and minerals. And the only way to really know that is to get tested for it with your doctor. And then that's where you might supplement in different foods or supplements to fill those gaps. And then finally, the gut microbiome, which is something we're increasingly learning has a big impact on our brain and body health. There are all the bacteria in our gut. And keeping the bacteria healthy, because they create important chemicals and things for our own health is important, and really a healthy diet over time will create a healthy microbiome. So then the next one is toxins. These are chemicals that are in our food, water, air, or other environments at work or home that have a negative impact on us. So I think the easiest thing to think of would be like air pollution. If you've got a lot of smoke in the air, if you live out west from forest fires, or you live near a road, those sorts of things can have a big impact over time and can increase the toxic load, which will negatively impact your brain health. The third one is medications, prescription or over-the-counter medications. These are the types of things you want to review with your doctor regularly, and just ask the question about, are these necessary? Are they going to have an impact on my brain health long-term? Because some medications can have side effects that create memory loss or cognitive decline, and some can contribute to it over the long term, but no decisions in this area should be made just on your own. Everything here needs to be with the consultation of your physician. So next is heavy metal toxicity. These are things like metals like mercury or aluminum that can find their way into your system through really many different avenues, or lead. That could be through your water, or mercury amalgam fillings if they were done properly or removed improperly. If they were put in improperly or removed improperly, or aluminum, lead. Sometimes you don't even know why these are, or why or how they've made their way into your body, but they can all have a significant impact on your brain and therefore on cognitive decline. Hormonal imbalances. This is a big area. This can be the sex hormones, like testosterone or estrogen, but it can also be things like thyroid hormones that all have different effects, but can have significant effects on your health if they're out of balance over time. And again, that's the type of thing you would work with your doctor to explore and diagnose. Low-level infections. Here you can think of chronic inflammation. So if you have chronic bacteria or infections in your oral health, if you might have chronic Lyme disease or undiagnosed Lyme, mold, or although that's not an infection, food might be creating inflammation for you, or UTIs are actually a notorious contributor to memory loss and dementia. So Number 7 is a big category of lifestyle factors that we've kind of grouped together, but each of them is their own topic. Inadequate physical activity, so not getting any exercise, not walking. Over a lifetime, though, that lifestyle can contribute and cause the buildup of, negative. Over a lifetime, low physical activity can negatively impact many different physiological and processes in your body that negatively impact brain health. Additionally, not staying mentally active, keeping an active brain, it's kind of a use it or lose it situation. If you're not using your brain, learning new things, or being socially interactive, having a strong social life, being active in your community, those types of things over the long term can lead to a degradation in brain health. We're social creatures. We're meant to be using our brain. We're meant to be active in order to keep our bodies and our brains active. And if we're not doing those things, we're not activating our brains and bodies. We're not kicking off all the healthy physiological processes in our brains that keep our brain healthy, creating new neural connections. And all of that can lead to the degradation of the brain over time. So prolonged stress. This is an important distinction where we're not talking about acute stress, the stress you might have on a single day or for a short period of time, where you're stressed about a particular event. That's normal, natural, and it's going to occur in everybody's life. But when that stress starts to happen every day and there's no break and your body never gets to calm back down, cortisol builds up and creates inflammation in the body, and overall the chronic stress over time is a substantial risk factor for memory loss. So managing stress, finding ways to calm your body back down or manage long-term stressors can be really effective way to keep your brain healthy. Sleep and breathing. This is a really underappreciated part of keeping your brain healthy. These are two core body processes that happen every single day. Breathing, every single second. And they're both very important to keep your brain healthy. Sleep, many healthy processes happen while you're sleeping. You want to be sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night. And if you're not, amyloid beta, which is the molecule, one of the 2 hallmark molecules in Alzheimer's disease, starts to build up, and you're not essentially cleaning your brain, storing memories, pruning away old memories. And then the same goes for breathing. There are a lot of, you might have heard of sleep apnea, airway obstruction during the nighttime. These things cause a decrease in oxygenation of the brain. And if you're not getting oxygen to the brain, your brain isn't able to stay healthy. The cells are losing their energy, their ability to process energy and use the oxygen. And that's going to slowly over time damage the brain. And then finally, physical and emotional trauma. These are really 2 separate but can be related categories. Physical trauma is really exactly what you'd think. Things like traumatic brain injury. That physical impact and harm to the brain at any point over a lifetime has been shown to be a risk factor for cognitive decline. And then same thing with emotional trauma. Emotional trauma, like adverse childhood events, has been linked to dementia and cognitive decline late in life. So that's a lot of causes. Each of those could be their own, probably 3 or 4 series webinar. So if you have specific questions at the end, please feel free to ask.
Thanks, Steve. And I just wanted to say that, when we talk about taking a multi-causal approach to brain health, it really is about what Steve was just talking about, which is that there's usually not just one thing that may be causing your memory lapses, but it could be a number of things. And the really important thing is to understand that, and understand that over a lifetime of living, many factors can start to increase inflammation and toxicity in your body that will ultimately begin to affect your brain. So what are some of the things that we can do now, any of us can do now, to help our brain health? Well, first of all, nutrition is huge. Nutrition is a number one thing that almost everybody can usually do something about. But one of the things is to really eat whole unprocessed foods, which means foods that don't come in a can or a box, and begin consuming less sugar. And that less sugar is not just in the form of how much sugar you put in your coffee, but also in the form of the simple carbohydrates that you eat, the white flour foods that actually convert to sugar. And another thing you can do is hydrate. What does that mean? Drink more water. If you're not already drinking adequate water, you want to make sure that you get enough water so that your body can hydrate, so that it can get rid of all of the toxins that you accumulate every day. And people always ask, well, how much water is enough water? So there's a general rule of thumb, and this is, if you have kidney issues, then this is something that obviously you want to look at. As with everything that we say, always bear in mind your own health issues, and make sure that you talk to a doctor or other medical professional before you really radically change something. But with hydration, the rule of thumb generally is that you take your body weight, you divide that in half, and that's the number of ounces that you would want to drink during the course of a day. So if you weigh 140 pounds, you'd want to drink 70 ounces of water or herbal tea, nothing caffeinated or sugar in it. We haven't talked at all about fasting, and a lot of these things are things that we talk about in our small group program, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So there is scientific research that shows that doing intermittent fasting can be very helpful to your brain health. And a 12-hour fast is something that is really not hard to do. If you take your last forkful of food at 7 o'clock at night, just don't eat till 7 o'clock the next morning. So if you're used to having a bedtime snack or something like that, well, that's something you might want to consider eliminating. First of all, it's amazing. You'll actually start sleeping better. Most people do start sleeping better when they cut out that snack. And why is that? That's because digestion takes a lot of energy, and so does sleep. If your body is busy digesting, it's not sleeping. Avoid toxins and chemicals. This, once again, is a huge subject, but just look around your house and see how many toxic chemicals you use in cleaning solutions, your shampoo, your body lotion, the aluminum in your deodorant. Do you use nonstick pans? Nonstick cookware actually emits toxins. And one of the best things you can do is to, instead of using non-stick cookware, consider using cast iron instead. Sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. Easier said than done for a lot of us, but that's something certainly to move towards and something we talk about in our program. Get breathing issues treated. Now, what does this mean? If you know that you snore, for instance, you might want to see a sleep specialist or a dentist who specializes in airway obstruction problems, and see if there is something that you need to do. See if you have sleep apnea, and if so, how it can be treated. Get regular exercise, aerobic exercise, balance and strength training, walking, yoga. You can do at-home strength training exercises that are actually incredibly important, especially as we get older, to maintain our body strength, and just so we can do simple things like stand up out of a chair or pick up our grocery bags. And a little bit more, because there's always more we can do. So challenge your brain, doing crossword puzzles, or actually learning a new language, or learning a new language, learning a musical instrument. There are lots of things you can do to challenge your brain. Spend time with family and friends. Social isolation has been a huge factor in the rise in dementia deaths over the last 2 years because of the pandemic. So spending time with family and friends and that socialization is incredibly important. Manage your stress. Steve talked about the difference between acute stress and prolonged stress. If you find that you have a lot of prolonged stress in your life, think about how you might be able to manage that. And sometimes it can be as simple as taking a walk in nature, just doing some deep breathing exercises, spending time with family and friends, listening to music, or if you are interested in meditation, that can be a scary word, a scary thing for some people, but it actually is really, really good in managing stress if that's something that you want to investigate. Get help for trauma. So if you have had trauma of some sort, and this, is anything from a TBI, a traumatic brain injury, to emotional trauma, then seek out professional help to help you with that. Protect your brain. If you ride a bicycle in particular, which is something that is more common at this stage of your life than probably playing football. But just make sure that if you're doing some physical activity where you could possibly sustain a brain injury, wear a helmet. And don't wait if you sense a memory problem. If anything that you've heard today is like resonating with you, and you're saying, I wonder, maybe I do have a memory problem, then make an appointment with your doctor. And see what they had to say about it, and then see what you can do about it. So I talked during the last part a little bit about some of the things about our coaching program, and I just wanted to introduce that here today. One of the things that Sharp Again does that is very unique is our small group coaching program. And what this coaching program is it's 6 group coaching sessions, and the groups are small. They're not more than 8 people. It includes the 6 group coaching sessions, 2 one-on-one coaching sessions. So every member of every person who's a participant in this session gets a personal one-on-one coaching session with a professional coach, both at the beginning and the end of the group sessions. You receive education and resources on the effects of lifestyle and memory loss, and what you can do actually to help reverse your memory loss by changing certain lifestyle factors. And in the coaching program, we focus on nutrition, stress, exercise, and sleep, because those are 4 things that you can actually do something about yourself without having to see a medical doctor or have any kind of testing done. Those are things that you can start working on yourself. And what we do is can you go back again, Steve? And what we do is we in the program, we actually work with the participants to help them identify small changes that they can start to make that over time can add up to a really significant change. And we also offer access to a cognitive assessment that is administered by Cambridge Brain Science. This is new to our program. We're very excited about it. And once again, this is a tool for you to use to assess where your cognitive functions are, and then over time, see how you progress, with your lifestyle or other programs you may be doing. Okay, thanks, Steve.
All right, I'd like to just jump in and add one more thing, if you don't mind. Sure. Hi, I'm Susan Lynn. For those that you don't know me, I'm the executive director at Sharp Again Naturally. And I did want to stress one thing about our coaching program. This program is for all of us. This is for the individuals who are either noticing little blips or having what Steve has talked about, subjective cognitive impairment. But it's also for those of us who simply want to stay healthy. We've seen a friend or a loved one who has struggled with memory loss, and we know how challenging and difficult that is, and we don't want that to happen to us. Those are the people who will benefit the most from this program, because there will be education and tools that will help you to keep your sharpest mind as you age. So I just did want to point that out.
Great. Perfect. Thanks. Thank you, Sue. So we have a program that begins on May 3rd. And the registration deadline is actually April 22nd, which is just in 3 days from now. And basically what the rest of the slide says is a lot of what Sue talked about. the program really offers a unique opportunity to preserve your cognition, to keep it intact. And I just wanted to say that coming and being on a webinar and getting this information is all a really, really wonderful thing to do. But if you are really, really committed to making a change in your lifestyle and in your brain health, this is an opportunity for you to just take a step over that line. Just take a step from, I'm sitting on a webinar, I'm learning about brain health, to, you know what, I'm really ready to do something about this. And this is the perfect opportunity for you to do that. It really is. I'm one of the coaches in the upcoming program, and this will be, I think, the fifth or sixth time I've coached in this program. We've been doing it for a year and a half and have had some really terrific results from people in the program. So if you have any interest in starting to really take action if you have any interest in really starting to take action on your brain health, this is really the perfect opportunity to do that. So yes, the program begins on May 3rd. We meet Tuesdays at noon for an hour and 15 minutes. The groups are, we take no more than 8 people in the group, so it's nice and small. There are 2 coaches. We do breakout rooms so that, and it's done on Zoom. And we do breakout rooms so that there's plenty of time to share and get support in the changes that you're looking to make in your life.
Thanks, Myra. So what can you do next? That's kind of the conversation we're having here. So just to circle back to the very beginning, seek help as early as possible for the best outcomes. The earlier you start tackling these different causes and making the changes that Myra talked about, the better your outcomes can be. Focus on the positive. I think the positive is that there are things you can do. There are things, all these changes are options to create a healthier brain. Whereas Myra talked about that stigma or previous conception that there's nothing you can do. Well, the science now says there's plenty that you can do. Commit to making at least one positive change to bolster your cognition after this webinar. We gave a whole host of different changes, really different categories. Think about just one small little habit or change to your diet or your sleep routine or whatever it may be. Book a doctor's appointment that might start pushing you in a positive direction. Join the Stay Sharp coaching program that Myra was just talking about. I think it's a really effective way to create accountability, have support, keep the learning process going, and really push that change forward without having to do it all on your own, because this can be a big and sometimes overwhelming task by yourself. And then finally, learn more by attending future Stay Sharp webinars. This is kind of our intro to brain health, our Brain Health 101 webinar. And we're wrapping up our winter spring series of 4 more detailed topic webinars on May 20th with the social connection in brain health. I think Myra and I both kind of hinted at how important social connections are for brain health, but we're doing a whole webinar on that. And then we're going to have 4 more detailed specific webinars in the fall. So what are your takeaways from today's conversation? What's one thing you learned today that you are going to do for your brain health, or just a takeaway from today? We would love to see that in the chat. It's great for everyone to share what was the most impactful point. And finally, I hit on about, yeah, go ahead, Myra.
No, that's right. And also, I just wanted to say that even if you don't really want to share something that you learned, which we would absolutely love to hear, but even if you don't want to, just write down for yourself something that you heard today that you can take away, and you can say, yeah, you know what, this is a change I'm going to make. And if you do that, you'll start to get kind of an idea about what the coaching program is about. Except that, oh, look at that 12-hour fast. That's a great one. Because what we do in the coaching program is we encourage you, we ask you to set a small change that you're going to take for yourself, and then we support you in making that change. So go ahead, Steve.
Oh,
So we
that's
have-
perfect. So next steps, you can visit sharpagain.org. All of the programs we do are listed up there, including the foundational program. I'm not monitoring the chat, but I'm imagining there's a link in there somewhere to it. Sign up for our email list for additional email research and information in your inbox. Please join a program or refer somebody to a program. If you're not a good fit, I think we all know somebody who this is a concern for, who's had a parent with dementia or is worried about their brain health today. And as always, we would love your support. Donations really allow us to put on things like these webinars, to put on programs, and we're expanding our programming and really expanding our reach every day. Our programming is growing at a really amazing rate. So finally, Q&A. What questions do you have for that Myra and I can take a crack at answering? I don't know if Joan, you're monitoring the chat, if there are any ones in there.
Yes, Karen Digby asked, how can I go about getting neuroquant reader imaging? How is this different from a PET scan? I'm not familiar with those words.
So I think I know the type of imaging you're talking about. I don't have a specific resource to find one. Although I do know, I'm not going to reference them here, but I do know, I think, a few major clinics that do that type of imaging that are national. So if you just Googled, that, you'd probably find the closest clinic to you. And as far as how it's different from a PET scan, it's a little more technical than I feel like I'm qualified to answer. So hopefully that's partial answer is good enough for today.
She also asked, how common are mood changes such as anxiety and or depression, new or increased, in SCI and in MCI as a prodrome to dementia?
So anxiety and depression is actually one of the things that you will probably begin to notice. Mood changes, behavioral changes in particular, is something that is very frequently noticed in someone with Alzheimer's and dementia. I know that that's one of the very first things I noticed with my mother, was that her behavior began to change in ways that were very, very different from how she had been in the past. So once again, it's a relative change. Okay, is this really something different? Am I really noticing that this is different, more worse than it ever was before? Can certainly be a precursor or an indication of one of those types of cognitive impairment.
Myra, it's Sue again. I wanted to add, we actually have a couple of articles on the impact of depression and anxiety on memory loss on our website. So if you go to sharpagain.org and you put those in as keywords, you'll be able to read some of the articles that we've included in our newsletters.
Great. And I see that there are a number of questions here, right, about the program and the times of the program, the dates of the program. Right now, the groups that we have are at noon on Tuesdays. We may consider doing an evening group at some point. We have done them in the past and found that people actually preferred the earlier groups, but I know if you're working that it can be a challenge to be on them. And Eileen away in early May, and I think that Joan, you answered that we have a program beginning in July. I'm not sure if those are on the website or not.
Not yet.
Okay, and then I see here that a number of people have talked about things that they will do, which is, I think, pretty cool. I see Susan is going to do a 12-hour fast. Dania right, find toxins. I think we had a couple of people who talked about finding toxins in shampoos and cleaning products. And Karen says, get help early. Yes, indeed. More about toxins, organic blueberries and strawberries. Yeah, that's a type of toxin. Absolutely. You know, the toxins that we find in foods. And yes, buying organic is, you know, can be a very, very good thing. However, if you can't afford to buy organic, it's sometimes just as important that you buy blueberries and strawberries and eat those as opposed to something that's not as healthy for you.
I'm also noticing Susan mentioned that hearing loss is supposed to have an impact, which is a great point. And I also think a good point to make in general, that the causes we listed are not all encompassing. They're not every single cause. Something like hearing loss is a big risk factor. As for hearing loss in midlife is increasingly considered one of the most changeable risk factors. It's one of the most significant risk factors that you can have an impact on by just getting a hearing aid or some other hearing device. So it's a wonderful point.
Yeah, and can I just add that I'm one of those hearing loss people who it took a long time for me to get a hearing aid. But one of the reasons that it is so impactful is because if you are having trouble hearing, it means that you begin to not socialize as much because you can't hear what people are saying. You can't understand what they're saying. And that's really a significant loss, that you stop being able to hear in social situations, as well as it can impact how well you learn. So hearing loss is definitely, I think, very critical.
Yeah. Any other questions? I think that might about wrap it up.
Yeah, I think these are the questions I'm seeing here are mostly about scheduling. Strawberries are one of the dirty dozen with serious toxins. They absolutely are. And actually, Susan, that's a great point. If you go onto the EWG website, the Environmental Working Group, they actually have a list, and I think their new list just came out. There we go, list to the dirty dozen. And they have for you, their newest list just came out, and it has for you the top 12 most toxic fruits and vegetables that you can buy, that if you buy conventionally, they are highly toxic. It's a great thing to work through because then you know what's the most important thing for you to try to buy organic, because organic is not inexpensive. But if you can buy, you know, the top one or two things or things you buy frequently organic, then that will be very helpful for you. Hey, did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Well, thank you
Okay.
everybody so much for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to have you. And I think we're all hoping to see you again at a future webinar or in another group, or even something like our weekly meditation group. It would be wonderful to see everybody again.
And
Thank
as soon as the recording is available, I'll send the link out to the YouTube channel so you can rewatch it, especially that section on the 10 causes of cognitive decline. Thank you, Steve and Myra.
Meryl is asking about the charge for the program, the small group program.
It is $79, and that includes the 2 one-on-one coaching sessions, as well as the 6 group sessions, along with a workbook and the resources that we'll have available as well.
Yeah, and it also
cognitive assessment.
The assessment, yeah, also includes
Correct.
access to the assessment. Yep. So.
And we do have scholarships available for those who are a bit challenged financially. We do not want that to be a barrier to participating. So if you are interested, just send us an email. It's right on the page for the group, and we will reach out to you directly to talk about it.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.